Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. Zelensky during the previous evening made lots of very interesting statements. Zelensky said that Ukraine is waiting for a response from the United States of America in relation to the Russian strikes. The request to stop the attacks came personally from Trump, but Putin launched a record number of ballistic missiles. So as you can see, Zelensky was trying to force the president of Russia, Putin, and the president of the United States of America to begin fighting. But the president of the United States of America stated that the pause was for Sunday to Sunday. It opened up and Putin hit them hard right now. Putin kept his word on that. 1 week is a lot. We will take anything. From the other side, we received a report that Lindsey Graham stated and proposed the president of the United States of America to provide Ukrainians Tomahawk missiles to begin attacking deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation. All these things, all these meetings, all these statements, all these attacks are taking place before the beginning of a very important round of talks that today is going to take place on the territory of the United Arab Emirates. According to information we have, the plane with the Russian delegation has landed in Abu Dhabi. As of the Ukrainian delegation, we still haven't received anything. According to information we have, most likely there are going to be 2 days of talks, today and tomorrow, and most likely, and according to media and according to different experts, this upcoming night between the 4th and the 5th of February, the Russians may launch another massive attack through the entire territory of Ukraine, but of course everything depends on the results of talks during the first day. As of the main topic and as of the main things and tasks that Ukrainians are tasked for, they want to understand whether the Russians are ready to accept security guarantees that the Western countries promised to provide Ukrainians. Just yesterday, the General Secretary of NATO, Mark Rutte, stated that Putin is afraid to attack Ukraine again. Again, that's how powerful security guarantees we are preparing. So another important statement was made by him. He stated that following a peace agreement, foreign forces, air power, and naval support will appear in Ukraine, says NATO Secretary General. Most likely, the Russians will not accept these security guarantees, and the Russians will continue bombing and attacking the territory of Ukraine until Ukraine accepts demands of the Russian side. Just to remind you that yesterday, Rutte visited the power station number 4 of the city of Kiev, and he was shown the consequences of Russia's attacks. And as you can see, as a result of yesterday's attack, the Russians destroyed this power station completely. Here we can see the ruins, and here we can see the consequences. Here we can see lots of buildings that were destroyed. As for the previous night, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians launched 105 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine, and Ukrainians reported that they managed to bring down 88 drones. At the same time, the sources reported that Ukraine attacked the territory of the Russian Federation as well, and the Ukrainians were attacking the city of Belgorod. So this is the video that was published from the city of Belgorod, and here we can see the moments when the Ukrainians attacked the power station of the city, and right after the Ukrainians attacked the Belgorod power station, we can see a blackout occurred. So this is the situation in this area. During the previous nights, lots of reports were received from the city. The Ukrainian armed forces launched a missile strike on Belgorod, causing serious damage to an infrastructure facility in the region. Another important statement: the Ukrainian armed forces are attacking Belgorod. Air defenses are in operation in the area. The shelling was carried out with multiple launch rocket systems. So the Russians are saying that Ukrainians were attacking the city of Belgorod with HIMARS systems. And this is a very important thing, because during the previous evening, the Russians raised lots of MiG-31 aircrafts with Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, most likely just with one purpose: to track and to hunt HIMARS systems of the armed forces of Ukraine. And during the previous night, we received this video. And here we can see this video was geolocated. This is the exact point of where exactly the Russians attacked this vehicle vehicle. According to this video, the Russians managed to discover the HIMARS system of the armored forces of Ukraine to the east of the city of Kharkiv, right to the south of the city of Belgorod. Most likely the Ukrainians were attacking the city of Belgorod from these positions, and when the Russians discovered this HIMARS system, the Russians attacked this territory with Iskander missiles, and the HIMARS system of the armored forces of Ukraine was completely destroyed. So this is the situation. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next. These talks in Abu Dhabi are going to be very important, and it seems that these talks are going to become real, probably the first real talks since the beginning of the special military operation, when the Russians and the Ukrainians will talk on the matter of the peaceful settlement of the conflict, and most likely today we will see a lot of talks on the matter of concessions and security guarantees that the Western countries are promising to Ukraine. So this is a very important question. The Ukrainians right now need to know just one question: whether the Russians are going to attack Ukraine once again in the future or not. And the Ukrainians are trying to understand what the Ukrainians must do to avoid attacks in the future. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Sumy direction. During the previous 12 hours, lots of interesting updates came from this area. This video was published from the area of the northern part of the Sumy, and here we can see a launching site of the armored forces of Ukraine. Using this territory, the Ukrainians were planning to attack deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation using hundreds of drones, as you can see. But the Russians discovered this launching site as a result of reconnaissance operation, and then the Russians began bombing and attacking the territory with missiles. The sources are saying that the Russians destroyed something like a command post of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area. That was responsible for launching of these drones deep inside of the territory of Russia. So it seems that Ukrainians were planning to attack the territory of Russia during the previous night, but their plans failed. Another important update is coming from the area to the east of the city of Sumy. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were recorded around the settlement by the name of Mirapilya. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 3rd of February, and this is the beginning of the 4th of February. The Russians managed to establish complete control over the pocket, and the Russians continued their offensive operation further in the western direction towards the settlement by the name of Mirapilya. So we see that the Russian Sumy offensive operation is gaining momentum, and the Russians are getting closer and closer, and it seems that the city of Sumy is something that the Russians are tasked for 2026 if the special military operation, if the conflict in Ukraine doesn't end, let's say, during late winter or early spring of 2026. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. It seems that a turning point in the battle for the city of Kupiansk occurred. It seems that the Russians managed to regroup themselves, and now the Russians are launching their major offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the eastern bank of the river Oskol. This information was confirmed by different sources, including pro-Ukrainian sources and pro-Russian sources and neutral mappers. Most of them are telling us just about one thing, that the Russians are trying to establish complete control over the pockets to the east of the settlement of Kovsharovka. So now the Russians are trying to establish complete control over the territory, and according to information we have, currently the Russians are fighting for this dense network of the fortifications which is located to the east of the city of Kovsharovka. We have FPV drone attacks in this area carried out by Russians. Here we can see how the Russians were attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area. The Russians are trying to shorten the distance to the settlement of Kovsharovka from the east by taking on the complete control of this territory. So let's wait and see what is going to be next, but now it seems that before May or even before April of 2026 the Russians will finish the battle for the eastern bank of the river Oskol. Now let's talk about the Slavians' direction. During the previous 12 hours, small changes were recorded. The Russians improved their positions to the south of the settlement of Karovy Yar. These are the changes on the ground, and this information was provided by neutral mappers. The Russians are trying to advance between the villages of Krymki and Karovy Yar to cut to break through the defense line of the armed forces of Ukraine in this area, and then to attack every single settlement separately. Furthermore, we received the video to the north of the city of Liman from the village of Stavki. The information that the Russians improved their positions there was published by neutral mappers and by this geolocation. Here we can see how Ukrainians of the 60th Mechanized Brigade were attacking Russians in the most southern part of the settlement. Based on this video and based on the report that was published by a neutral mapper, we adjusted the map. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. We see that the Russians are approaching the settlement of Liman from the north as well, and it seems that the major battle for the city of Liman is going to start very, very soon. As for the eastern Slavia direction, during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received almost anything. The Russians were continuing doing everything they did a day ago, 2 days ago, and so on. The Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine through the territory with FPV drones and with artillery, trying to destroy as many as possible positions of FPV drone operators. A lot of updates during the previous 12 hours we received from the city of Konstantinovka, and we have a major changes. For example, this video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in the southern part of the settlement of Vilenka. Here we can see a Ukrainian FPV drone that was attacking Russian soldiers that were trying to hide below this vehicle. This episode took place right exactly at this point, and based on this video we have adjusted the map. These are the changes on the ground between the dates. So now we have lots of proofs that the Russians answered the Konstantinov agglomeration from the southwest. The Russians are about to finish concentration of their forces in the territory of Bereztok. Now the Russians are trying to concentrate their forces on the territory of Vilenka, and then from these positions the Russians will try to establish complete control over the southwestern part of the settlement. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that Russians managed to improve their positions around the settlement of Stepanov. It seems that this is also a very important settlement for the Russians during the battle of the city of Konstantinovka. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Dobropolye direction. A very interesting video was published from the most southern part of the city of Pokrovsk. Here we can see that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to capture the Bradley armored vehicle of the armored forces of Ukraine, and the Russians using this vehicle were riding in the most southern part of the settlement. A bit further to the northwest, the Russians improved their positions around the settlement of Grishina. Basically, the entire southern and the southeastern parts of the settlement were captured by the armored forces of the Russian Federation as a result of offensive operation. Now the Russians are trying to concentrate their forces in the southeastern part with the purpose to advance further in the northwestern direction, with the purpose to establish complete control first over the central part of the settlement of Grishina, and then to establish complete control over the northwestern part of the settlement as well. So the battle for the settlement of Grishina is ongoing, and the Russians are keeping advancing. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received anything special. Furthermore, during the previous 12 hours, according to information we have, the Russians were attacking the city of Odessa. Lots of explosions were recorded, the sources reported, and the local media reports that the Russians were attacking objects of energy infrastructure. So as of the morning of the 4th of February, we haven't received anything that can confirm the damage that the Russians managed to deal. But anyway, we expect that in coming 24-48 hours, the Ukrainians may try to attack positions, ships, vessels of the Russian Federation in the Black Sea and along the shore in the southern parts of Russia. But another important thing, during the previous days we received the very interesting updates on the matter of vessels and tankers that are moving through the Black Sea. The sources reported that some Russian and Russian-linked tankers are now sailing very close to Turkey's Black Sea coast to avoid Ukrainian Navy drone strikes in open waters. So the Russians changed their tactics. When talking about, let's say, the situation a month ago, the Russians were moving in the direction of, let's say, Turkey territory through the Black Sea using, let's say, these roads. But starting on the February of 2026, the Russians are trying to move along the coast with the purpose to stick as close as possible to the territorial waters of Turkey. And if they see or discover drones that are trying to attack them, the Russians can easily enter the territorial water of Turkey and to avoid strikes from the Ukrainian side. So this is a new tactics that the Russians began using recently. And that's it for the short video. Military with Summary channel reminds to we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.